My sister-in-law accuses me of having an affair with her fiancé because my baby looks like him, but we throw the DNA test in her face and she cries because there's no more wedding. 2 weeks ago, I gave birth to my first baby, my son. My husband and I have been together for the past 6 years and got married 2 years ago. We've known each other's families for a long time, and I've known his sister Riley for quite a while. She and I don't have a very close relationship, but we are civil to each other. So, everything that's happened recently has really surprised us all. 2 weeks ago, when my son was born, both families visited us and were with us during labor. Even at that time, everything was pretty normal. It's just that, a couple of days ago, we invited his family over for dinner, and that's when things got really bad. At first, we were having a good time, but suddenly, Riley started behaving very differently. She left the room for a few minutes, but didn't return. Her fiancé, Roman, followed her. A few minutes later, we heard voices shouting. We didn't know what they were arguing about, but then Roman and Riley came into the living room, and Roman just walked out saying he couldn't deal with that anymore. It was obvious he was very upset about something, and even Riley was crying. After he stormed off, we asked her what was going on, and she just turned around and started accusing me of ruining her life and messing everything up for her. She called me an unfaithful witch. None of it made any sense because I had no idea what she was talking about. My husband had to calm her down a bit because she was completely hysterical, and that didn't help anyone. Then the truth came out. Apparently, for some reason I don't know what, she got it into her head that I had had an affair with Roman and that the baby was his because it looked too much like him. Let me tell you, that's a load of nonsense. I think it's a little racist too. Both Roman and I are Latino, and of course there's going to be some resemblance because we share a skin tone to some extent. My son is also half Latino. That's all. There is nothing else. I don't think my son looks like Roman, except perhaps for the color of their skin, and even that is not very similar. So it was a huge accusation, with nothing to back it up, and I was furious that she would say something like that. I was about to fight her about this, but my husband stopped me because he felt something wasn't right with her at that moment. He told me that talking to her and trying to reason with her at that moment was not going to help. When she was making a scene in my living room that day, only her family would talk to her. But I didn't say anything because I knew it wasn't worth it given the way she was behaving. I left my husband and his parents with her, and she kept screaming. I went into the room with my baby and didn't come out again until they left. Once he left, my husband came to tell me that apparently Riley wants us to take a paternity test to prove that my son has nothing to do with Roman, because otherwise she won't go through with the wedding and will call everything off. Apparently that's exactly what she told Roman, and that's why they were fighting earlier. That was what made him leave in anger. After hearing what the fight was about, I don't blame him one bit for storming off, because it was extremely insulting, not only to him, but to me as well. My husband told me there was no need for me to go through all this. He said I didn't need to take a paternity test just to prove something to Riley. He thought she was clearly going through something, and I didn't need to get upset about it because it wasn't my fault. But I told him I was going to get tested, send her the results, and make sure she knew how wrong she was. To be honest, I felt really humiliated that day, and I wasn't going to let it go. I didn't care if she was going through something or whatever. I hate the insinuation that I had anything to do with Roman, and that the baby wasn't my husband's, and that I had been cheating on him. It was all completely unfounded. She was just insecure about whatever it was and couldn't stand it. So I decided to take a paternity test, and the results came back yesterday. Obviously, it was proven that the baby is my husband's. He and I sent a copy of the results to both her and Roman. Roman obviously didn't respond, but she did. She contacted us, or at least tried to. She started calling and texting us, and we didn't respond because by then I realized I didn't want to talk to her anymore. Since I didn't want to talk to her, my husband didn't want to have anything to do with her either. We also talked to my in-laws about all of this, and they told us that for now she probably just needed to be alone because something clearly wasn't right with her. So we decided to follow their advice. We didn't talk to her, and she kept calling and texting us, but we didn't respond. She made it her mission to come to our house at 11 p.m. She started ringing the doorbell like crazy and screaming hysterically right outside the door. We didn't want to be embarrassed in front of the neighbors and others, especially since it was quite late at night. So I decided to open the door and let her in, at least so we could talk inside the house and it wouldn't all be a public spectacle. We had to calm her down because the baby was sleeping, and we didn't want her to wake him up. Anyway, she eventually calmed down a bit and lowered her voice, but even then, she was still pretty hysterical and begging us to talk to Roman and do something about it. She claimed that she had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which is very sad for her. But I don't know what we could do in this situation. Apparently, after receiving our test results, she decided to contact Roman and try to talk to him, apologize because they hadn't been in touch for the past few days after the fight at our house. After he stormed off, he probably went back to his apartment, because when Riley got home, some of his things were gone, and he was nowhere to be found. But she didn't try to contact him at the time. She was still quite upset with him, although she also regretted her own behavior. For the few days after their fight, they had absolutely no contact, and she made no effort to contact him. However, now that she knows she was wrong, she wants to get back with him. But he doesn't want anything to do with her, and I don't blame him. My sister-in-law thinks he's blocked her, which is probably true. Now she wants us to help her get back with him, but I'm pretty sure he's not interested because if I were in Roman's shoes, I wouldn't be either. It was quite difficult last night to get her to calm down and leave. At one point, I did feel a little bad for her because she revealed that she had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and things like that. But I also don't think that's an excuse to treat everyone like crap. If you've been diagnosed with that, it's best to continue treatment or whatever it takes to get better. Don't start a night of unfounded accusations just because you feel like it. This is really not our fault. That may be an explanation, but it cannot be an excuse for her behavior, because it really was horrible for all of us. I really don't think we owe her any kind of help. She got into this on her own and should deal with it alone. Do you think her mental condition is enough to forgive her and help her? Even though I don't think any help will help her. For me, without the DNA test, she wouldn't even have apologized to us, and she would still be on this racist crusade. Update 1. These past 2 weeks have been packed with things to tell, so let's get going before I forget. But first, I'm going to summarize the consensus of the comments. Apparently, most people think like me, and the diagnosis is no excuse for her behavior. There are even people saying that the diagnosis is made up just to make herself look less bad. Things with Riley aren't going well right now. It's like she's on one side, and the rest of the family is on the other. And honestly, she has no one else to blame for that but herself. After she came to us that other night, screaming and crying hysterically, trying to get us to help her and get back in touch with Roman, we never got back in touch with her because we honestly had nothing to say to her. I feel sorry for her mental condition as long as it's real or whatever, but that's really not my responsibility. And as I said, it's an explanation, not an excuse. My husband and I talked about this and agreed that the best thing for now was to let the situation go and let her handle it however she wanted. We also talked about it with her parents, and they had the same opinion because this is between her and Roman. I don't understand why she came to us because it's not like we have a very close relationship with him either. He is her fiancé. That's the only relationship we have. And if he's not willing to talk to her, then it's really not something we can control. So even if we wanted to, I don't think there's anything we can do to help her. It's not because we're from the same region of the planet that I'm going to have the power to convince him. Not even our roots are from the same country. And the only reason we didn't get into all the drama and create a bigger problem was because of her mental condition. That's all. It came out in a very bad way, and she should have told us about it before. But she didn't, and it was her personal choice, which we respect. But it is our choice not to get involved, so she should have respected that, and she didn't. She gave us a few days. She kept trying to contact us all, but when she didn't hear back from any of us, she decided to create drama out of it. And that's something I don't think any of us would want. Not only was it against me and my husband, which would have been understandable, but she also dragged her parents into this for no reason, even though they hadn't said or done anything. She decided to go ahead and post about it on Facebook, and I really have no idea what she was hoping to achieve with all this. It's not like people started sympathizing with her just because of her diagnosis, because at the end of the day, the things she said and what she did were really bad, and there's no way to defend them. And that's the funniest part, because if she really wanted people to sympathize with her, then she should have only posted about her diagnosis and left out the parts where she was the problem. But for some reason, she decided to be completely and totally honest in her post, which I kind of appreciate. But that ruined things for her because she posted what happened and was very open about it. She posted everything honestly, and now people are obviously turning on her and asking her to apologize to all of us instead of posting things like this and turning us even more against her, because everyone is very clear about one thing. This is not our fault. The whole family has said the same thing, that we're not to blame for this, and regardless of whether she has bipolar disorder or whatever, she can't put all the blame on us. Her behavior was completely out of line, and Roman was completely right to leave because of the things she said. It was unnecessary, and it's a miracle we even heard from her afterward, and that we did everything we could to get the paternity test done and send it to her, etc. That was more than we should have done, because something like that shouldn't even be considered, as it is so insulting and humiliating. But I still did it just to throw it in her face that she was talking complete nonsense. Now, on top of all that, she's decided to go public, and she's not hurting anyone but herself. So, this is what most people have had to say. But still, she hasn't deleted the post, but she has disabled comments and blocked us. So obviously, we have no idea what's going on exactly, but there are family members of ours who have still sent us screenshots and things like that. And everyone in the comments was with us until she turned them off. We haven't said anything about this because I don't think there's anything we can say. She is convinced that we are somehow to blame and is unwilling to look at her own problems. I can understand that her mental condition is probably making all of this worse, but I really can't excuse that or let it go. It's been over a week, and she still hasn't deleted that post, even though almost everyone in the family has had a negative reaction to it. I don't know what's going on in her mind, and I honestly feel like she's making things worse for herself. If she left everything behind, it would be better for her. But she's not interested in doing that. She just wants to make other people look like villains and herself the victim. So, whatever it is. As for Roman, we haven't heard from him, but we have heard from his family. My in-laws contacted his parents and were told the wedding was off, obviously because whatever was said really wasn't necessary. And Roman is really hurt. He really loved Riley and would really like to marry her, but he is upset with her. First, because of that unfounded accusation, but second, because she kept secrets from him that would be the diagnosis. Things weren't going well in recent months either, nothing serious enough to cancel the wedding. But added to this, it seems that it's not easy to put it aside. Anyway, the diagnosis is an explanation for all of that, but he doesn't understand why she didn't tell him. I can understand that there's some stigma and shame associated with mental health conditions, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't talk to anyone about it, especially someone who will soon be your husband and should be there for you in sickness and in health. It just makes everything worse. So, she could have easily talked to all of us about this, and we would have done everything we could to help her in any way we could. But you don't try to get help by screaming things like, "The baby is black, cheating, cheating." But now it's like she doesn't want help. She just wants to play the blame game, and even her parents don't know how to deal with it. So I think it's completely fair that Roman opted out of this relationship, especially since it's clear things aren't the same as before. If this happens before you get married, when you do, it'll morph into something worse. So, of course, when my in-laws contacted Roman's parents, they apologized for Riley's behavior. They even tried to get them to talk, and wanted Roman and Riley to work things out, so that at least the relationship wouldn't end on bad terms. They didn't want the wedding to go on, but they did want them to at least have their goodbye. But he just wasn't willing to talk to her at all. That was a couple of days ago, and since we're not in contact with Riley, we couldn't even tell him about all of this. I don't think it helped either. Anyway, whatever the case may be, I know for a fact that unless she comes and apologizes to me, I have nothing to say to her. The most I can do for her is give her my sympathy. Other than that, I don't think I can do anything for her. And the most important thing is that I'm quite busy. I also just had a baby a couple of weeks ago, so it's not even just about her. She's picked the worst time to do it. I'm quite emotionally and physically drained in the first place, and she's only made everything worse for me, so she's not going to get on my good side now. I know my husband doesn't want to talk to her either, and I know that even her parents right now aren't very happy with her, so right now she's completely alone. Anyway, thank you so much for letting me vent here, and also for all the support I've received in the comments. It's very sweet of you, so really thank you so much. And yes, the baby is doing well. I know there were also people worried about him and congratulating me on becoming a mother. Update 2. It's been a week since my last update, and I've been trying not to think about all of this. And it's been nice because, honestly, there was no point dwelling on it. It is what it was. My husband and I have kept our distance from this whole mess, and it's been good for both of us. Last night we even had his parents over for dinner with mine, and this family dinner went way better than the last one, that's for sure. It wasn't hard seeing how she set the bar so low last time. My father-in-law could have just stood there and showed his butt on the table, and it would have been better. Well, maybe not that much. We had a lot of fun, and my mom posted some pictures on Facebook. Somehow Rayleigh saw that because I guess my mom didn't block anyone, and she shouldn't have since she's not involved in any of this. But anyway, Riley saw those pictures and got furious. She didn't confront us, but she went over to her parents' house this morning. And by morning, I mean literally at 6 or 7 in the morning. That's when crazy people come out to cause drama. But anyway, she did this, and my in-laws told us she was out of her mind. She acted exactly like she did the other night. She came home and started banging on the door like crazy. She started screaming and crying hysterically, saying that they were isolating her for no reason, that they were making her life difficult, and that they were somehow responsible for her mental illness. Now, at that point in the morning, it obviously wasn't feasible to let her continue doing that outside their house because it was inconvenient, not only for them, but for the neighborhood as well. So my in-laws decided to open the door, let her in, and just like we tried, they tried to calm her down, but she was hysterical and kept yelling at them, accusing them of everything that went wrong in her life for some reason. And it was really unfair because, as far as I know, my in-laws are not the kind of parents who should be responsible for any of this. They've done their best to raise their children to be good people. And let's face it, Riley is almost 30. I think she's way past that stage where she can blame her parents for everything. Sometimes people also have to take responsibility for their own mistakes. And whatever happened recently, it was all her fault. There are no two ways about it. She got herself into this, and she can't blame her parents for everything, not even the situation with Roman, especially not that. I think that particular situation was literally of her own making. There was no reason for her to suspect anything was going on between Roman and me. We hardly ever interacted outside of her presence, so there was no reason for her to say that. But she did. And now, somehow, it's my fault. It's Roman's fault. It's her parents' fault. It's everyone's fault but hers. Even her parents tried to explain things to her in a nice, polite way when she arrived, but she wasn't ready to listen to them either. She's hell-bent on pushing this narrative that she's not the villain. And that's it. No one else can speak out against her, and that's her only agenda. Also, my in-laws ended up telling her about the conversation they had with Roman's parents, where they decided to end the engagement on his behalf. I'm guessing it was a bad decision because after that, she practically exploded at them. She went crazy. She started throwing things everywhere because they hadn't told her before, although my in-laws tried to explain that they had tried to contact her, but she had blocked them all, and they didn't know how to reach her. They considered going all the way to her apartment to talk to her, but decided against it because she obviously wasn't willing to talk to them. But she didn't care. She was just hell-bent on making this all their fault. Like, if they had just gone to talk to her about it, the engagement issue would have been resolved. I don't know what's going on in her head. I just don't understand, but I'm not a professional in that area. But this is getting really weird now. She's doing all kinds of things, and I don't understand how she expects the family to put up with all of this. My in-laws told me she threw things, broke a lot of things, and created chaos really early in the morning, and then left after cursing them all out. What's their fault? I don't even know. Roman had practically broken off the engagement by then. It just needed to be made official. Roman's parents had just formally informed my in-laws. That was it. But anyway, she's decided to behave this way and thinks she's fine just because of her diagnosis. So, whatever. Update 3. It's been a month since my last update, and things haven't changed much, but no one in the family is willing to talk to Riley. She was supposed to get married next week, but obviously that's not happening anymore, which I guess has also been a source of explosion for her, but since she's avoided contacting everyone, we haven't figured it out. She's deactivated all her social media, and from what I understand, she's left her apartment, moved, and even changed cities, but no one has any contact with her now. I hope she does well in life. I hope she gets better soon, and I hope to never have anything to do with her in the future. As for my little family, we've been pretty good. My son is happy and healthy, and my husband and I are doing well. My in-laws obviously miss Riley sometimes, but they've already come to terms with the situation because, honestly, they did their best and it didn't pay off. She decided she didn't want anything to do with them and went with it. So, there really wasn't much they could have done for her. Of course, we all hope that at some point we can resolve all of this, but until then, we can only hope for the best. I have no animosity toward her or anything. Not anymore. But I don't think I could ever have a normal relationship with her again. And that's completely okay. Not all of us have to get along all the time, especially with those people who have wronged us. Update 4. I need to give a quick update because we now know something more about Riley, which I think says a lot about the matter. My husband ran into one of her best friends at the supermarket the other day while he was doing some shopping for the house. They chatted for a while and obviously touched on the subject of Riley. She was like a big, hairy, angry bear that you want to hide under a very tiny rug. Her friend said that Riley had been suspicious about Roman and me for a while, but until then, her only proof was that we were of the same race. Not even this friend could find any evidence of an affair between us. Then, the whole dinner thing happened with her accusation about my baby. The friend also told my husband that Riley was talking about this bipolar diagnosis, but had never mentioned seeing a professional. And here's the kicker. Riley doesn't have bipolar. She confessed to her friend that it was the only way to justify what she did and make Roman feel sorry for her and forgive her. We've seen that it hasn't helped. Finally, this friend thought it was too much to make that up and distanced herself from her. I've been thinking about it, and I would do something similar with a friend willing to lie just to gain a benefit. Even worse, if she can lie to her family and fiancé, she'll probably do it with a friend as if it were nothing. I still haven't ruled out that she has some psychiatric problem, but at least it's not bipolar. Or maybe she does. I don't know what her symptoms are, but maybe she hasn't been diagnosed. I feel like we're receiving information in dribs and drabs. Very slowly. Update 5. More information on Riley, this time from Roman. We hadn't spoken to him since dinner, so I was more surprised than you were when we got a call from him. He called my husband and told him he hadn't spoken to any of us since the dinner, partly because he was always someone who avoided confrontations, but also because he felt so ashamed of what happened and just wanted to sweep it under the rug and be done with it. My husband told him he didn't have to justify himself to us, but before that, he told us what he had really called about, which was to talk about Riley. He thought her family was still in contact with her and wanted one of them to talk some sense into her. He said she had been threatening and harassing him for ending the engagement. She sent him a letter insulting him, telling him he was not a man, and a host of other things. She even gave him grotesque gifts, like a headless toy or something like that. He thought that because they had been together for so many years, she would find a way to make him stop without getting the police involved. My husband told him the truth, that no one had been in contact with her in months, and that if he had to call the police, he should do it. It was probably the best thing for her at this point. If she wasn't going to listen to her family to seek help, at least listen to the police or a judge, and if not, at least he shouldn't be able to continue causing problems. We don't know what he's done because we haven't spoken to him again, but that's been pretty terrifying considering being in his shoes. My in-laws already know all this too and agree with my husband that if he has to call the police, so be it. Update 6. Riley is finally getting help for her illnesses. I don't know her exact diagnosis, but it's a mix of several things like borderline personality disorder, anxiety, and psychotic episodes. To get to this point, Roman filed the complaint. After being arrested for harassment and battery, she had to get a lawyer. The lawyer got her a deal where she would have to see a professional and go through treatment to avoid jail. So far, they were talking about 2 to 5 years. The reason for so many years in jail has to do with the fact that Riley, about a year after the engagement ended, discovered that Roman had rebuilt his life. This led her to go into crisis again, and to surprise his new girlfriend by attacking her when Roman wasn't there. So, she's receiving treatment? That's what we know. I've made it clear that even if she receives treatment, it will be very difficult for me to trust her, especially around my son. And my husband feels the same way. With my in-laws, it's different, but not much. I think they're open to the possibility of having a relationship with their daughter again, but so far they haven't been to see her. I think it's enough for me to put this behind me and finish my updates. When I started posting, I had just had my son very recently, and now we're preparing for his 2nd birthday. I'd like to thank everyone who's still reading this because it's been so long and I know many have lost interest, but to those who made it this far, I can only thank you and send you my sincere wishes for a good life.